Lung cancer stands as the most lethal type of cancer, but the battle against it is not solely medical. It's also informational. Myths, stereotypes, and misconceptions about the disease persist, creating barriers to early diagnosis and effective treatment. To counteract this, a new initiative has been launched this Lung Cancer Awareness Month, the Be Unforgettable campaign. With the tagline, "Forget everything you think you know about lung cancer," this campaign aims to rewrite the public narrative surrounding the disease, providing a more positive and optimistic outlook that encourages immediate action. The Be Unforgettable campaign looks to confront three primary misconceptions which can all delay diagnosis and potentially deny people the opportunity of curative treatment. Nihilistic perceptions. There remains an overriding belief that lung cancer is an inevitable death. The campaign seeks to challenge this, alongside guilt and stigma that often prevents people from seeking help. People should be empowered to understand that early intervention can make a tremendous difference. By facilitating more open conversations about the disease, the campaign hopes to allow individuals to seek help free from judgment. Patient stereotyping. There remains a somewhat outdated belief that only certain people can get lung cancer. The misbelief that lung cancer only affects smokers or older people means younger individuals often fall victim to patient stereotyping. As a result, late-stage lung cancer is more likely in younger patients. The campaign highlighted the simple facts. If you have lungs, you can get lung cancer. Symptom confusion. Awareness of the many different symptoms of lung cancer remain low. Whilst many are able to identify a persistent cough and shortness of breath as potential symptoms of lung cancer, very few can identify other signs, and specifically lesser-known symptoms such as shoulder pain, difficulty swallowing, or finger clubbing. The vagueness of symptoms also contributes to delays in seeking help. By making this information widely available, the initiative aims to encourage early diagnosis, leading to more effective treatment. The Be Unforgettable campaign seeks to educate the public through social media platforms, public service announcements, and community events. These mediums will be used to disseminate factual, easy-to-understand information about lung cancer, thereby combating misinformation. Secondly, the campaign will champion the cause of self-advocacy. Individuals will be encouraged to consult medical professionals and undergo screenings. Finally, the campaign will employ compelling stories to challenge stereotypes and myths surrounding the disease. Today, we're joined by Rachel Avery, Director of Marketing and Communications at the Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation, Dave Marcus, who was diagnosed with early-stage lung cancer, and Spike Elliott, who is living with stage 4 lung cancer, to find out more. Now, all of you, thanks so much for joining us today. Great to see you all, and very excited about this morning. So, Dave, over to you first, please. If you could please answer these questions in as much detail as you can. What were the early symptoms you experienced, and how quickly did you act on them?
Hi, good morning. The early symptoms, they were as innocuous as a cough that just wouldn't go away. I was treated initially for a chest infection and given antibiotics, and the antibiotics kind of took for a while, but the cough came back a couple of months later, much more severe, and I was told I had pneumonia and a chest infection, which is quite a toxic mix, and I was given more antibiotics. And that was pretty much it, to be honest. I'm a lifelong non-smoker, so I've seen the advert that says if you have a persistent cough, get it checked out, but it just never registered. It never came on my radar that as a non-smoker, that was something I needed to be aware of.
Yeah, that's an excellent answer. And I mean, yeah, it leads us neatly on to the second part of the first question. I mean, did you have any inclination whatsoever that these symptoms could indicate lung cancer? And, how did you ensure that they were thoroughly investigated?
So, no, absolutely no idea. When you're told you've got a chest infection and pneumonia, it's pretty much accepted. There was no other symptoms. I was fit and healthy. The day I actually went for a scan, I was running up 6 flights of stairs quite happily. And apart from this niggling cough, there was nothing else there. So lung cancer would never have registered. As I say, it was just something that never came onto my radar.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And how did your early diagnosis impact your treatment options and also your prognosis?
So early diagnosis, it wasn't really early, to be honest. I guess I did what a lot of men tend to do, which is sit back and wait for it to get better. And at the time, my partner was just coming to the end of 12 rounds of chemotherapy for colon cancer. And it was more Emily that pushed me. She was getting concerned about the cough. I was thinking things were going okay. I'd had antibiotics, and it was coming up towards Christmas, and I thought she'd had such a terrible year, and now she was actually improving. It was time to celebrate. So my grand plan was to get through Christmas and then have a look at it if the cough was still there. And instead, Emily insisted I get a second opinion. I used a doctor from the company I work at, actually. And it was a very different conversation. It became much more urgent, and she told me I needed referral to a respiratory consultant. And that was when I found out unbeknown to me, I had a 7.8 centimeter tumor in my left lung. And I was told that if it got to 8 centimeters, surgery would become very, very difficult. So quite naively, as I say, like a lot of men, I sat there hoping things would get better, not quite realizing how drastic and severe the situation was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a powerful story. And what advice would you give to others who are experiencing similar symptoms? What would you say to anyone out there listening today?
Wow. I mean, after my experience, I would say the advert that says if you've got a persistent cough applies to everybody. For me now, I would tell anyone, get checked out. There's very little room for error here. And I think of myself as very, very lucky. Lucky that Emily pushed me, lucky that I was able to have surgery. And I think if you've got anything that doesn't feel right, get it checked, get a second opinion, and make sure that you're on the right path, because this is a very, very, very difficult challenge to meet. And I think the earlier you get it seen to, the better chance you've got of a more positive outcome.
Thank you so much, Dave. And Spike, over to you. Good to see you as well. And, as someone who did not fit the typical profile for lung cancer, what sort of challenges did you face in getting an accurate diagnosis? If you just give us a sort of an overview of the challenges, that'd be fantastic.
Good morning. So my initial symptom was a shoulder ache that I actually felt whilst exercising. And I pretty much just put it down to some kind of muscular ache. So I went to seek my GP after about 10 days, feeling uncomfortable. And my GP pretty much thought the same. I'm very active, young individual. I had no cough or any respiratory condition, just this shoulder ache. So I went away with some painkillers, but this ache just continued, and was just starting to infringe upon my actual usual activities. So I wasn't exercising. I was finding moving around difficult. So I went back to see my GP again, and my GP thought maybe on this occasion it was some soft tissue damage, maybe an infringement of a nerve. And she said, "Oh, let's just see how we get on. If it does persist, then we'll seek some further investigative measures." So it did continue, and I went back again. And on this third occasion, my general demeanor was different. I was more forthright. I just didn't feel right, and I conveyed that to my GP, who then actually referred me for a CT scan. And during the CT scan, which was about 5 days later, is when it was interrupted, and I was actually referred to A&E to actually be admitted. Now, I didn't actually have a cough or any respiratory condition at this point, But about a year earlier, I had persistent cough and was on antibiotics. At that point, I was actually suggested that I had bronchitis or a severe chest infection. But this went on for a couple of months. I did actually get a chest X-ray, but that didn't actually show any signs of any concern. So that was pretty much it. So on that occasion, I had nothing to concern myself with. I was fit and healthy. The cough was frustrating, but I was still conducting my life. I was still exercising. And again, when I had my shoulder ache, the idea of lung cancer, it wasn't even on my mind that it was even a symptom that could relate to cancer. So it was nothing that I was even really too concerned about, apart from just feeling really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, no, great answer. And I mean, that leads very neatly into our next question. So, were there any assumptions or stereotypes that led to delays in your diagnosis?
I think the first thing that I met was you're young, you're fit and healthy, you're strong and active, and you didn't have any respiratory concerns. That's the main thing I seem to be discussing with my actual GP. And in this instance, no, I didn't actually have any chest or respiratory concerns, and I hadn't had any for a good part of a year. I did feel well apart from this ache.
How has your experience with lung cancer disrupted common myths or stereotypes about the disease?
I think the first thing is, if you do have a cough that's persistent, I think definitely seek some advice. Know you're normal, and what's not normal for you, seek some advice, get some attention. A cough is one of the maybe better known symptoms, but it's not the only symptom. The other thing was, if I was a non-smoker, I'm a never smoker. So therefore, actually, lung cancer can actually be a symptom for anyone who has actually lungs. And if you have anything outside of your normal, seek attention, be inquisitive, and be persistent.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Spike. Rachel, how is Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation contributing to the Be Unforgettable campaign? And what specific programs or initiatives do you have in place to tackle the misconceptions around lung cancer? If you could just give us an exhaustive rundown of all of them, that'd be great.
So Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation launched the Be Unforgettable campaign at the beginning of November, which is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. And we did it because we were growing increasingly frustrated hearing and seeing stories of people who were missing out on an earlier and sometimes life-saving diagnosis because of these outdated misconceptions. At the heart of the campaign are stories like Dave and Spike's, and they're so important, these experiences, because they really help us challenge these misconceptions. They're living proof that these perceptions are very outdated. So lung cancer can affect everyone. Both Dave and Spike have talked about their experiences and how they never thought lung cancer could affect them in a million years, and yet here they are, both having had the disease. You don't always have to have a cough. There's still a lot of work to do in raising awareness of symptoms. Persistent cough seems to be the one people are aware of, albeit not as readily as we'd like. But it is by no means the only symptom. So we need to highlight the exhaustive list of potential symptoms and make people more familiar with that. And also demonstrate that lung cancer is not the instant death sentence people perceive it to be. It is the UK's biggest cancer killer, but it's come a long way. So if it's caught early, there's so much that can be done to treat and cure the disease. And we've got someone who's part of the campaign who is 23 years lung cancer free. And also the advances in treatment. So even with later stage diagnosis and disease, people are able to live really full lives with late stage lung cancer. So we wouldn't want people to avoid seeking help because of fear, fear stopping them from acting on symptoms. We're working with NHS England on our Let's Talk Lung Cancer Roadshow. So we're heading off into 10 kind of different cities and towns throughout the month to have face-to-face conversations, open and honest conversations around lung cancer, because it is still a disease that isn't openly talked about. There's so much stigma associated with it, and people do shy away from talking about it, and this only amplifies those misconceptions. I've done events where I've approached someone, they've seen where I work, and they said, oh, don't worry, love, I don't need to worry about lung cancer, I've never smoked. And that's ultimately what this campaign is trying to change, those misconceptions. So having those really direct face-to-face conversations are a key part in that activity. And we're even taking the event to Parliament next week, where we'll work with MPs to find ways to improve early detection and awareness within their constituencies. And finally, we're also running the campaign on social media, of course. We're taking quite a direct approach. We are just telling people you're wrong. That's kind of the creative that's going out. And people don't like to be told they're wrong. And so they are engaging with the campaign, which is fantastic, because it means that people are talking about lung cancer. And that is the first step to changing this outdated narrative and ultimately saving lives.
What resources does Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation offer to help individuals better understand and navigate a lung cancer diagnosis? So, once the awareness month is over, what else is on offer to sort of steer them throughout the year?
So Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation is the UK's leading lung cancer charity. We're the only UK charity solely dedicated to supporting everyone affected by lung cancer. There's lots of information and resources on our website, roycastle.org. So in the lead up to diagnosis and advice about risk and symptoms, lots of information about there. And I do encourage people to go and have a look and make themselves more familiar with all the different types of symptoms that can indicate lung cancer. So symptoms such as a persistent cough, shortness of breath, extreme tiredness, repeat chest infections, I could keep going on, unexplained weight loss, loss of appetite, coughing up blood, even more obscure ones like shoulder pain that Spike experienced. It's all on there, so please do familiarise yourself with that. We have a symptoms tracker on there as well, so people can keep an eye on all of their potential symptoms, when they started, how long they've been going on for, if they're getting worse, and that helps them paint a really full picture for a GP, which is really important to kind of getting you on that diagnostic pathway sooner. And then, of course, for anyone who has received a diagnosis, Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation is here to support them through it. Lots of information about all the different types of treatment, and then support services, for any questions, concerns, worries, anxieties they may have, or that their loved ones may have as well, because a lung cancer diagnosis doesn't just affect the person with the disease, it affects the whole family around them, and we're here to support everyone.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Excellent point, Rachel. Thank you very much. And Spike, anything else that you would like to add to the conversation?
Yes, I think early detection offers you the best opportunity for the vast range now of personalized treatment paths for your particular cancer. So early detection improves your outcome and improves your life living with cancer.
Good man. Well put. And Dave, over to you. Anything else to wrap us up?
Yeah, thank you. I guess for me, it's just making sure you don't fall through a gap. It very nearly happened to me. I wouldn't be on this this call today if it wasn't for Emily pushing me in the right direction, and it shouldn't really take that. Nobody's going to invest as much time and as much care in your health as yourself. And I think that's really important, that if something doesn't feel right, as we've said before, if something feels amiss, don't sit back and worry, take action, because at best you've wasted a bit of time, but the consequences of not getting involved could be disastrous. And as Spike and I have shown, this is a very survivable, despite being scary, illness. But with the right care, support, and a bit of luck, you can get through this. But that luck starts with people taking a look at themselves first and saying, is everything okay?
Dave Marcus, Spike Elliott, and Rachel Avery, thank you so much all for joining us today.